Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about the NBA trade deadline, which is nearly approaching. I think it's finally here. We saw really the first big trade move today, and that was the Clippers trading Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson in a second to the Portland Trail Blazers for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. And I'm just going to say it off rip. I think the Blazers completely lost this trade. I think the Clippers got a great haul back for what they gave up. I unfortunately don't love that the Clippers are getting better because they're supposed to be bad this season, just OKC pick-wise and all that stuff. But I'm excited to see what they're doing. I'm excited that a trade just finally went down because that's always something to talk about. But unfortunately for the Blazers, they kind of gave up nothing. And a lot of people are starting to go back and look at the Gary Trent Jr. trade, the Robert Covington trade, which they gave the two first-round picks up for. And Gary Trent Jr. still looks like the better player to this day. Obviously, Norman Powell is still young. Not young, but he's youngish. He's mid-20s. Same with Gary Trent Jr. They're both making similar contracts, but I think Gary Trent Jr. has played a lot better this season compared to Norman Powell. I think he would fit the timeline a lot better, but it's a confusing trade, and I think it was supposed to be a very even trade that no team really won last year, but I think as of right now, Portland definitely won that trade. And then moving Norman Powell for not much in return is a bit questionable. Now, I get what they're trying to do. They want to build around either Anthony Simons or Damian Lillard, and I think with this happening, moving a lot of salary cap, you're going to have CJ McCollum next year for about $33 million. Larry Nance is going to be there. Anthony Simons is going to be back, and then Lillard, you don't really have many big contracts. And yes, you are trading away a contract, but he wasn't necessarily a negative contract. It's not like a veteran that doesn't play much, doesn't get in the rotation much anymore, and just sucking up 20+ mil a year. He was still a great NBA player on a pretty solid contract. So it was a bit questionable necessarily why they wanted to move him for nothing, a second-round pick, and Keon Johnson. Like, come on. And not taking anything away from Keon Johnson. I think he's still a prospect in the league. I've seen him play basketball before, especially at Tennessee, and he was great. But in the NBA, he just doesn't really get minutes. He's not that great of an NBA player just of now. But maybe Portland could kind of do something with him. As far as this goes for the Clippers, they've been surprisingly decent this year. I think they can definitely be a play-in team possibly with Reggie Jackson, who's been Luke Kennard's great. Marcus Morris has been solid over the course of game to game, depending on how well he is. And we've just seen some good quality basketball players. Isaiah Hartenstein has looked good, even though he's been bounced around for teams for the past few years. He's looked good. Zubac has looked good. There's been a lot of players on this young Clippers team that have looked good in the absence of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And on top of getting Norman Powell, Robert Covington has been struggling this season. You are getting these guys for this season as well as next season potentially with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George back. So what does this open up for LA? I think it opens up a ton of opportunities. Norman Powell this season is going to be probably the number one option maybe for the rest of the season, especially with Reggie Jackson. I don't think he's going to be taking a lot of shots away from Norman Powell. I don't think guys like Terrence Mann are going to be taking away a lot of looks from a guy like Norman Powell. So I think this is going to be a huge opportunity once again for Norman Powell. And I could definitely see the Clippers being very, very beneficial from these trades, especially now and then in the long term, hopefully with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George back next season. Maybe if they make the play-in tournament or the playoffs, we could see a return from those guys. Don't count on it. I'm not expecting them to. But I think you just got to go out there with that squad and kind of hoop. I think Portland definitely loses a lot here, and the Clippers definitely won. But now, on to the second part of this video that I want to talk about, which is this brand new rumor that we just got from Shams a little bit about an hour ago, which is that the Philadelphia 76ers are heavily pursuing James Harden ahead of the trade deadline. Now, we've talked about Ben Simmons a million times. We've talked about James Harden a million times, it seems like. But now I think we're getting some traction. I think we're finally getting our foot in the door. Ben Simmons might get moved. James Harden might get moved. We've had rumors come out saying that he's not happy in Houston. He's not happy with kind of the extraordinary life, the extracurricular activities going on in Houston. Or not Houston, in Brooklyn, Houston as well. But is Philadelphia going to be that spot for James Harden? We will see. We know Daryl Morey and James Harden have those connections. Are we going to see a part 2? Are we going to see Harden come back and play with Daryl Morey? Or not play with Daryl Morey, but play technically under Daryl Morey, but in this case it'll be Doc Rivers. What does Philly give up? What does Brooklyn give up? Now I'm going to answer some of those questions right now. I think Brooklyn, what would they want back in a scenario where they're giving up one of the league's superstars in James Harden? You already have KD, but he's going to be out for who knows how long. You have Kyrie Irving, but he's only going to be playing in away games. What does this mean to Brooklyn? You have a ton of guys on that team. You have a really deep team, but it's a bunch of vets that aren't reliable. Nick Claxton has been really well. What do they need? And I think that's a guy like Ben Simmons. You have 3 isolation scorers on your team. You have a guy, James Harden, one of the greatest isolation bucket getters of all time. You have Kyrie Irving, same thing can be said about him. Same with Kevin Durant. You don't have a true defender, a true slasher. You don't have a guy like that, and I think Ben Simmons could really be that guy. Their defense is atrocious, and who's a guy in Philadelphia that doesn't want to be playing basketball, that matches salaries kind of evenly with James Harden? It's Ben Simmons. You see where I'm getting at. I think Kevin Durant will work well off James Harden, or will work well off of Ben Simmons. I think Simmons could really guard 1 to 5 depending on who your center is. You could see Ben Simmons really playing any sort of position. And I think having Simmons at the 4 with a potential lineup of, let's say, I think Brooklyn is going to want more than just Ben Simmons for a James Harden swap. Philly's most likely going to have to throw in a pick, maybe 2 in this situation. They're probably going to have to throw in a little bit more talent in the terms of probably a Shake Milton type of player. A guy we'll probably see not Maxey get involved. I don't know if Matisse Thybulle will get involved. I don't think he will. But then Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons is so much money. So unless they get a third team in there, which I do think is going to happen, I don't think Tobias Harris is going to stay on this Philadelphia team. I think James Harden and Joel Embiid is going to be enough for them, and they're just not going to want to keep around $30+ million a year when they don't have to. I think they're going to get a third team involved here. What do I think that third team is? I'm not really sure. Maybe a team like Sacramento or something, or OKC, or someone that could just take on a lot of salary in the Tobias Harris side of things. But I also could see them being like a play and contender team. Someone that just needs a guy that could create a bucket, average 15 to 20 points in Tobias Harris, which I think he could do on a team when he's one of those number 1, number 2, number 3 options. But I think as far as Philadelphia, getting Joel Embiid, a guy like Ben, or getting a guy like James Harden in Philly is insane. Now, I'm seeing comparisons. So it's like, oh, what much more is Joel Embiid in the pick and roll than Clint Capella with James Harden in Houston? Like, that's nowhere a good comparison at all. Joel Embiid is so much more than a pick and pop, pick and roll guy. Joel Embiid, if you're not watching basketball right now, he's the MVP. Joel Embiid is dominating. He's scoring from wherever he wants. He could dribble off. He can score from wherever. He could pull up from 3 with ease. He can rebound easily. He's obviously one of the best defenders. There's times where Joel Embiid does that little up fake, another one jab, up fake, and then just drives in 1-2, finishes at the rim. Or he'll pull up for midi, or he'll just body someone, turn around, and hit post shots from 16 feet out like it's nothing. And having a guy like James Harden to facilitate him, which he's really improved over the past few seasons, and then kind of giving the heavy, just lifting a little bit of ease off Joel Embiid's shoulders, it's going to be huge. We're not going to have to rely on MVP Joel Embiid to put up 40 points a night for the Sixers to barely beat the Spurs. We're not going to have to worry about that. We're not going to have to worry about Tobias Harris doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Seth Curry's not going to have to make 23s a game for the Sixers to win. And I genuinely do think this is going to be one of the best duos that we'll see in a long time if this trade goes through. I think both players are meant to be played with together. Joel Embiid is meant to play with a guy that could just find him the basketball, that can also create his own bucket super easily, get to the cup super easily. I just want to make sure I'm recording, which we are. Yeah, Joel Embiid, he's going to love this trade if it could go through. I think Philly fans are going to love this trade if it goes through. Obviously, I think the big 2 pieces are going to be Ben Simmons and James Harden. If I were to guess who else gets involved, I would definitely say Shake Milton will most likely get involved. A few first-round picks will most likely get involved from Philly. And then I think Brooklyn is also going to want to get another defender slash wing isolation guy, and I think that guy will probably be Matisse Thybulle. Not saying that the Sixers are going to want to give up him, but if you're giving up Shake Milton, Ben Simmons, and a couple picks and Matisse Thybulle for James Harden, a top whatever player in the league, Daryl Morey's accepting that right away. And you're getting rid of Ben Simmons, who Brooklyn will probably want to see it. Hopefully this trade goes through, and I'm just not talking about it for no reason at all. But I'm finally glad to see some sort of Shams Woj notification about Ben Simmons. Hopefully Ben Simmons, a little bit of traction. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave it a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, I have been doing basketball mixes for some of the homies over on Instagram, Zeals OKC. It'll be one of the links in the description. So if you enjoy those videos, leave it a like and comment and whatever. If you want to see more of them on Instagram, let me know. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video here on YouTube, do all the good things. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.